Hey everybody, I'm Dr. K, or Dr. Kareem Samori. But before I get started with today's video, I just want to show you beautiful Mexico. You see, I'm actually down here right now with a group of our friends from the fitness industry. Names like Mike Geary, John Romanello, Joel Marion, Arnel Ricafranca, Isabel de los Rios and her partner Jeff Siegel, and the list goes on and on and on. In fact, Vince Delmonte's down here too. Many of us had the opportunity to bring our significant others, spouses, you get the idea. It's a beautiful place, and it's a really nice opportunity to figure out how we can help you more, how we can help you achieve your fat loss goals in a faster and faster way. So that's what I want to talk to you about. You see, one of the biggest topics of this week so far has been a lack of program customization, which is an ongoing challenge in producing programs for you to use as a workout. The reason for this is, it's kind of like a cookbook, right? You can find a really good recipe in a cookbook, but is it tailored to your taste buds? What about a little bit of spice variety in there so that you can actually have less pepper if, for example, your palate's sensitive to that pepper and it feels like it burns in your mouth, but somebody else, they might want their food a little bit more spicy. I think you get the idea and where I'm going with this. So let's talk about what the proper spices to add to your fat loss program would be. You see, lacking customization essentially assumes that humans are not different from one another, and that's just not true. There are many factors that make us different from one another and the same in another respect, so let's talk about them. And then provided that you get involved, as I know you will below, and you start answering other people's questions, asking your own, leaving your comments, I'll be back with a solution for you tomorrow. But let's talk about the problem right now, the fat loss dilemma, and why you're not getting results as fast as you should. Well, for example, resting heart rate is a major factor. In general, it's fair to say that the lower somebody's resting heart rate is, the better their endurance is, both muscular endurance and overall cardiovascular endurance. This suggests that, for example, if you have great endurance, but you might not have great anaerobic capacity, or great sprint capacity, or great strength capacity, then maybe what you need to focus on is building that to create more symmetry within your body. That's symmetry in a sense that most people never even give thought to, but anaerobic and aerobic symmetry matters too. So we need to be able to train to balance that equation out so our body knows we're ready for progression. And that's a simple way to look at it. It actually gets a bit more involved. For example, you might have 80% slow twitch fibers in your body and 20% fast twitch, or it could be closer to 50-50 depending on how you picked your parents. Understanding that and then knowing how to apply that to your exercise program based off of your strengths and weaknesses is ultimately going to determine the speed of your results. But it's not just resting heart rate that matters, it's also heart rate response, heart rate recovery, meaning how fast your heart can recover in 30 and 60 seconds following stopping exercise, because that's a predictor of cardiac disease as well, but it's also blood pressure response. For example, a lot of people actually have their blood pressure shoot up almost to a max level within the first 2 to 4 minutes of their exercise program. Well, if that happens, you're going to reach your lactate threshold all too early. Lactate threshold is just a fancy way of saying when your body can no longer withdraw oxygen from your blood or from your bloodstream to be able to deliver it to the muscles that it needs, your body basically produces lactic acid, which creates an acidic state in your body. Acidic states in your body are healthy to have on short-term bases because, well, it kind of tells your body to stop so you don't get hurt. But on a long-term basis, or having it happen too often unnecessarily, acidic states are also related to cancer and other diseases. We want to have a balanced pH, and I'm not saying that, if you're out of shape, you're at greater risk of cancer. I don't know that that's ever been proven, but what I am trying to explain to you is, if your lactate threshold's here and somebody else's is right here, should you be doing the same program with the same intensity? If we're talking about rating and perceived exertion, sure. But if we're talking about the same minutes of an exercise program, if we're talking about the same movements, the same level of difficulty, well, there's just no way that that can be as accurate for everybody as it is for one person in particular. One of the greatest lessons I learned in designing programs on the internet was to think of just one client that I've trained and then have that be my average client and design the program around that person and then do my best to educate you how to be able to design your own program from there. But I'm going to do a little bit of a better job of that now because I really am starting to see the importance of this and I know how much it means to you. In fact, I know you need to get results as fast as possible. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the other areas that are really important to understand. For example, let's talk about motivation. Some people lack motivation, others are super motivated. So if you're lacking motivation, maybe that's where we need to start in your exercise program to enhance your results, because you'll take more away from every single workout from that point on. However, if you've already sort of mastered that aspect, and perhaps you're a life coach or you're somebody that really understands motivation and teaches others about it, Well, we need to sort of leave that part out right now and have you focus on something different. So how do we utilize that motivation to the greatest extent to be able to really enhance your exercise program? If motivation's already there, then maybe we need to challenge that all the time, because we know that's where you're going to rise to the challenge, and we know that's where you're going to reap success. It's really interesting to customize a program to this extent, and provided that you leave enough comments and questions below, you can count on me being back tomorrow with a solution and exactly how you can start customizing your program based upon your specific needs, so that you can start getting faster and faster results from every workout that you do. This stuff is better than neat. Let's talk about a postural assessment and how that relates to your exercise program as well. You see, postural abnormalities can really determine that you have what's called a nociceptive or pain receptor response taking place in your joints. Instead of being like a flat on flat contact or a smooth surface on smooth, you end up with sort of a hinging taking place if you have your joints out of alignment. That hinging can be like a sandpaper effect instead of a smooth effect of one gliding on the other. That sandpaper effect leads to arthritis, but it also leads to a pain receptor response that's sent to your brain that says, hey brain, turn off this muscle so that I'm not at greater risk of injury. Of course your body's going to protect you from injury, that's its job, so it's going to weaken the muscle that puts you at risk. Well, neurologically, we work on this through neurofat loss training, and we've talked about that aspect before, but I wanted you to have a better understanding of why that takes place. You know, you might also be thinking, well, isn't postural abnormality related to muscle imbalance? And that can be true, but muscle imbalance is a little bit bigger than what we've discussed before. Let's talk about this. First, within just strength, there's muscular endurance, there's muscular strength, there's muscular power. Get the idea, the list goes on, right? So what we want to be able to do is have the explosive ATP-PC system power. We also want to be able to have the muscular strength, which is more related to your anaerobic system. And then we want to have muscular endurance, which is more related to your aerobic. And that's where the 3 energy system training comes in. Okay, so hopefully you get that by now. Now let's just move on. Feel free to ask questions, by the way. Now let's just move on to the length component. Well, length is both, well, mobility and flexibility. Flexibility is like a static hold on a stretch. Reach and touch your toes, not the best stretch by the way, reaching and touching your toes and holding, that's a static stretch or flexibility. Whereas mobility would be reaching down towards your toes, coming back up slowly. Reaching down towards your toes, coming back up slowly, and doing that for repetitions instead of for a time hold. The difference between the two is mobility is going to relate to movement and flexibility is going to relate to position. So for example, if you try and sit up straight with your legs out in front of you and you're having trouble and you've got the tripod sign where your arms are going back behind you, you're going to need to work on flexibility. And without that, you're not going to properly balance out the length issue that you really desperately need to in order to get the fat loss effect. However, if what you're having trouble with is keeping your knee behind your toes in a lunge, for example, then you need to work on mobility. And mobility is going to ultimately determine your body's ability to recruit the right amount of movement and range of motion, muscular contraction as it relates to movement over time. So you can take more from more muscle fibers with every exercise you do once your muscle can properly elongate related to that movement. It makes intuitive sense once you think about it, but it's just how many things are there out there? How do you know what to think about, right? And I want to help you solve that problem. So that's what this week is all about. It's about program customization. It's about the fat loss dilemma and why you should be getting results much faster than you are. Go ahead and leave your comments and questions below. Help each other. Get involved. It's our turn to make a big difference. This is our blog, and I say that because without you, it's nothing. So please get involved. I'm looking forward to coaching you, and I promise you, with enough comments and questions below, I'll be back with an answer for you tomorrow. Have a great day.